Well, Shabbat Shalom. So I shouldn't have to say it, but I feel like I do. Pause for a minute. Twizzlers are not healthy. Now, you might be fooled into thinking Twizzlers are healthy because since the 90s, in that amazing low-fat phase, every bag of Twizzlers has had these words on it, that it is a low-fat snack. Now, technically, Twizzlers are a low-fat snack, but so are jelly beans. And so is bourbon. But nobody is saying that any of these things are healthy. Now, this has not stopped. I'm going to pass some of these out. Now, this has not stopped, especially when I was a kid growing up. Would you like a Twizzler, my friend? There you go. Twizzler for you. Twizzler. There we go. The front row. Fantastic. So this did not stop an ill-advised nutritionist when I was younger. There you go. Grandma gets a Twizzler. Bat mitzvah girl gets a Twizzler. There we go. Terrific. You get two, my friend. You know what? That'll be distracting. Well, at the Oneg, maybe we'll put them out. I had. You know what? This was more than I thought it would be. I'm gonna give these to you. You're gonna do whatever you want with them. There you go. So, let's get back into this. Maybe that was a mistake. So, when I was in elementary school, my sister and I were a little bit bigger than we should have been. And so my parents, remember I grew up in Alabama, my mother took me to a nutritionist. And everything I'm about to tell you is God's honest truth. This nutritionist comes into the room, and I was in 5th grade, my sister was in 3rd grade, and the nutritionist comes in, and the 5th grader realizes, and I'm not going to say anything more than this, that the nutritionist could have used a nutritionist. And the nutritionist comes in, and she has the best news for a kid who loves carbs. And I'm going to try the southern accent out. We'll see if this is my second mistake of the night. She said, you got these foods that are called lat foods. And a lat food is low fat, like rice, bread, pasta. These are all lat foods. So you can basically eat as much of them as you want. Now, I'm going to ask you, if you could, to limit your heavies, like ice cream, to maybe 2 or 3 a week. And I'm looking at my mom thinking, we don't even eat ice cream 2 or 3 days a week. This is the best nutritionist news ever. And so truly, God's honest truth, where do we go after the nutritionist? To Baskin Robbins. And the nutritionist didn't tell us about portion control. So we each got a brownie a la mode. It was incredible. And I tell you this because if you have a nutritionist who is giving you very bad advice, it is time to find a new expert in the field. Okay. So you go back 2,500 years, and there were no nutritionists back then. We had a different kind of expert in the field, and they were the priests. And they were doing a very bad Alabama nutritionist job of trying to bring us closer to God. In fact, they did such a bad job that in the Haftarah portion from the book of Ezekiel, we see a temple that needs to be rebuilt. Now, why does a temple need to be rebuilt? Because it was destroyed. And it was destroyed, according to Ezekiel, because we had very bad priests. Instead of bringing us closer to God, they brought us closer to pasta. They brought us closer to idols. And a whole generation of priestly leadership led us astray. Ezekiel is prophesying that when the temple is rebuilt, all of the C-suite of the Levitical priests are going to get demoted. They're going to get demoted. They're not going to get fired. This is worse. The Bible's cold. They're going to become, instead of being the high priest in God's sanctuary, their job is going to be relegated to cleaning up the animal guts after the sacrifices are offered. They will spend an eternity, according to Ezekiel, Bible's cold, cleaning up after the real priests. So then, if they get demoted, who gets promoted? And the answer is an interesting one. Who gets promoted to the eternal reward of serving God's sanctuary as a high priest, him and his descendants for all time? It is a person named Tzadok. I want you to say that with me. Tzadok, terrific. Now, I'm going to assume here, I was going to ask, but I'm not even going to do that you probably have not heard of Tzadok before. Let's go back, though. If you've heard of Moses, where did Moses lead us out of? Egypt. What religion did Abraham start? Judaism, and some other ones too. Who did David kill? Big guy, Goliath. So we know some of the big people in our people's tradition, but no one's heard of Tzadok, even though he gets an eternal reward. So what did Tzadok do to earn an eternal priesthood for him and his descendants? Now, you're not going to be initially impressed by the answer. The Haftarah portion from the book of Ezekiel 44, I believe it's verse 15, teaches that Tzadok, and this is the quote, maintained, God says, maintained my sanctuary as the Levites led Israel astray. Tzadok maintained the sanctuary while everyone else was going astray. So there's some context that you need to know for this. That Tzadok was a priest at a very difficult time to be a priest. Tzadok was a priest during not one but two civil wars. King David, wherever he went, trouble followed. And in the midst of these civil wars, the longer they dragged on, the more priests, which really were our spiritual leadership, the more priests peeled away from King David until Tzadok was the last one left. Everyone left David, everyone left God, everyone led Israel astray, except for one man, and his name was what? Tzadok. So he earns eternal reward by standing up, by staying strong, by remembering what had brought him to this place to begin with. And I want to tell this to you, and I share this background on Tzadok, because we have some seniors here in this congregation, and I'm so proud to be a part of this congregation with seniors like you. We have seniors who are going off to the next 4 years of their lives. It is an incredible thing to think about, that these kids, I've only been here for 14 years. See these kids going off now to a different place. My God, what is that? You've been here a lot of you have, but it's an amazing thing to see. And you're going to be going to new places. You're going to be spending 4 years in places, please God, that will love you, that will nurture you. You're going to make, please God, some lifelong friends. You're going to expand the aperture of what the world could be. And I want to say this to my seniors. Your college experience is going to be different from our college experience. Your college experience is going to be different from mine, from your parents, from your grandparents. Because probably in the midst of everything that college will offer you, you're going to encounter people who are going to challenge the very foundation of who you are. You're going to discover people who are not interested in asking you questions, who are not interested in wondering more about you or your background, who are out there with your classmates, your TAs, and maybe even your professors, with drums and posters and bullhorns, attacking you and who you are and what you stand for. You are going to a place that, honestly, none of us have ever been to before. And I want you to remember in those moments when you are afraid that we have been here as a people before. That you are not the first Jews to enter into spaces that are not interested in understanding you, that are full of thoughts and full of opinions, and they just finished scrolling through TikTok and they're going to take it out on you. You're not the first generation of Jews to be misunderstood. We've been here before. We as a congregation have been here before. We have been through these moments before because in so many ways, being alone and standing strong are what it means to be a Jew. We've been in these times, we've been in these places before. When you are in those moments, I want you to know that you are not alone. That you have a rabbi and a cantor and a clergy team and a congregation that loves you, that cares about you, as Cantor Bortnick said, who's always here for you. I want you to remember that when you're feeling alone. I want you to remember that when you are feeling afraid. And I want you to remember that as you remember what it means to be a Jew. I want you to be the Tzadok kind of Jews when you go into this next chapter of your life. I want you to remember what it means to stand strong and what it means to stand up, even when you are feeling alone. And I can't make the world a less scary place for you. I can't make the world less scary for any of us here, and it is a scary place. But what I can offer you is a question. And I want this question to be something that you hold on to as you move into these next 4 years, which is, what would you do if you were not afraid? What would you do if you were not scared? What would you do if you were not alone? Because you are not alone. You're a part of this people. You're a part of this community. And the answer to that question, what would you do if you were not scared? That is your path to goodness. That is your path to righteousness. That is your path to becoming and discovering exactly who you are. And so I pray as you go to college, again, that you meet lifelong friends. I pray that you expand what the world can be. I pray that you read books you would have never read and take classes that your parents wish you had never taken. And I pray that you discover what it means not to be self-righteous, but righteous. Not to be overly confident, but to be a Jew. If you can leave college knowing exactly who you are, you will have made me, our congregation, the clergy team, and all of us incredibly, incredibly proud. Shabbat shalom. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos.